A very good evening to all of you. Maja House is a new, innovative literary and cultural space in Amritsar. We opened our doors in March 2018 with a fabulous Basant Festival where we had some of the finest, most brilliant writers and performers. We offer platform for hosting talks, discussions, debates, workshops, and performances. We organized the first Maja House Children's Literature Festival in November with the best writers, storytellers, theater workshops, birdwatching sessions. In this time of pandemic and lockdown, we bring to you online sessions for kids every Saturday at 4 p.m. Today we have Himanjali Sankar with us in our first session for the young adults. Himanjali is a writer and editor. She grew up in Calcutta and did her master's and MPhil in English literature from JNU, New Delhi. She has written some children's and young adult books, including The Stupendous Time-Telling Dog and The Talking of Muskan, which was shortlisted for the Crossword Award. Mrs. C remembers her first novel for adults won her the FICCI Publishing Award for the upcoming Author of the Year 2018. Her latest book, The Lies We Tell, has been shortlisted for the Neve Book Award 2020 in the Young Adult category. We welcome you, Himanjali, and I request you to please take the session forward.
Thank you, Nazi. And yeah, welcome all of you. I'm not sure if I can see everyone. I can see a lot of faces, but there might be more students who are sort of, I think the screen has to go up and down for me to see everyone. Yeah, so that doesn't matter. So in case, I think Gulleen can see everyone. So yeah, because I was just thinking if anyone wants to put up their hands and ask a question, they can do that. Or
so there is an option on the screens as well where they can just raise their hands.
Okay. Yeah.
They have to click on that and that's how we'll get to know that they have their hands raised.
Yeah. Or you can just put a question in the group chat. So that hopefully I'll also keep an eye on that. And so I just want to know, okay, no, I can't, y'all can't speak. This is really kind of, I have to say I've done a lot of sessions, but not something online like this. So because I guess it's a strange time for all of us during the pandemic that's going on. And I'm getting used to Zoom calls and Zoom chats, but I have to say that it's still I also don't want to get very used to it because it's something that while it's working now, but I would really ideally have been with you. I would have been in a place with all of you where I could see people, I could see everyone's faces, I could see I could hear you speak, but I think in the situation, this is the best we can do. And I guess, I don't know how all of you are doing in these times, in the time of the pandemic. And for even in my life, and it's a much, much longer life than yours, I think it's the first time I'm seeing something like this, an event like this, which has shaken up the whole world. And I'm not sure how it is for you to be at home all the time and not be able to go out. Some of you might be okay with this. Some of you might be missing friends, missing going out, playing more. I mean, I'm sure it's a very different life from what we've all been used to. But I'm sure there are good things too. And I don't know what they are really, what is good about the pandemic, but you are getting to spend more time with yourself and, just think about life a little more. So I have this hope that, because I'm also very fond of reading. So I have many favorite authors, and I was just thinking, so all these authors who are just stuck in their houses and they'll be having, and this is a strange time. So they'll be thinking so much. They'll have thoughts which are strange, unusual in these times. So I'm hoping they will be writing more. And after the pandemic is over, I'll get to read some amazing new books maybe. So, So I was looking at the poster for this event, which said, "You, me, and a book." So I was just beginning to think about what is it that connects all of us. And in the beginning, I want to ask, I mean, if those of you I can see, will you raise your hands when I say, how many of you are less than 12 years old? The ones I can see, I'll be able to see your hands. Okay, and who all are over 12? Can you raise your hand if you're over 12? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can't see everyone, but I'm getting an idea of it. Anyway, so as I was saying that, what is it that connects you and me and a book? So it's like when you read a book, and this doesn't, I mean, I'm sure all of you have different kinds of favorite books. It doesn't always have to be fiction. Doesn't have to be a storybook. It could be non-fiction. It could be a book about the space, or maybe you like history, or you like science. So whatever book you like, you will find something about yourself in that book. And what I mean by something about yourself, I don't mean you are the author has written about you, but you will find yourself identifying with something in that book. If you like a book, there'll be a reason why you like it. So, okay, so Oshin says she likes Harry Potter. She or he. Anyway, okay, I can't hear you. But yeah, so Oshin likes Harry Potter. And I'm sure there'll be many reasons why. I mean, you like Harry Potter because of maybe the magic, maybe she. So Oshin likes Harry Potter maybe because of, she likes Harry a lot, or Hermione. She feels like she can understand Hermione, or she understands Harry, and that's how you like a book for many reasons. And usually it's a reason that is to do with you, like who you are as a person, and that makes you like a certain kind of book. So it's something always connects us to the books we love, and whatever the reason. I mean, it can be sometimes it could be a very silly reason why you like a book, but whatever the reason, it's valid. If you like a book for a certain reason, it's valid for you. So it has to make sense to you, and it's all right, whatever the reason is. If you identify with the book, you can even like say Oshin said she likes Harry Potter. Maybe, I mean, I'm just joking, but I'm saying maybe Oshin, you like Snape, or you not Snape. What's his name? Voldemort. Something in you makes you love Voldemort, which is okay also. You don't always have to like the main character. You don't always like to have love the hero. You could like somebody who's not okay. She's saying no, she doesn't like Voldemort, and yeah, okay, no, okay. I have to say that most of us will not like Voldemort. But what I'm saying is, maybe someone has a reason for liking Voldemort, whatever the reason could be. She hates him, but there could be a reason for liking Voldemort. I don't know what reason there could be. I don't know if anyone can think of a reason. They can put it there. Maybe Voldemort, he's a lonely character, right? I mean, no one likes him. So that is a reason to feel a little sorry for him, maybe. So yeah, so you can have, he is daring. Yeah, that's not a bad reason. That he is very, daring is a very good word. Yeah, that's a very good word, for good reason for liking a certain characteristic. So, when we like a character, like, you don't have to like everything about them. So Voldemort, we know, is by and large evil, but he does have certain qualities, like he is daring, and that's something that's also you have to admire. Somebody likes Molly Weasley. Archie says Molly Weasley is not bad. Yeah, so we could just, you can talk about any character in it doesn't have to be Harry Potter. You could talk about some other book and why you like a character in a book, and it's always something to think about. So yeah, so we identify with different characters in different books, and that's what reading is all about, really, about liking books, about not even always like, I mean, everyone doesn't have to like the same things. Everyone can have their own opinion, because I also feel that's the main thing about literature, because literature is about the human mind. It's about how people think, and every person is unique. All of us are very different from each other, and so we respond to the world in very different ways. And the whole point of literature is to show the different ways in which people think. Okay, someone has said Lion King is my favorite book. Harserat and Ishjot Babbar. Okay, I might not even be getting the names right. I know that might be very annoying for you because I might not be pronouncing it right also. Sorry about that, but since I can't hear you, this is the only way I can do it. So when we're talking about the human mind and the way we think and where we are, and all of us are different from each other, and all of us are sometimes happy, all of us are sometimes sad, sometimes you're feeling whatever reason your mood is off, and especially now I think there is we are all alone, and it's sort of you're coping with the different ways in which you're feeling. And when sometimes a person is feeling unhappy, there's it, like I also tend to say, when my daughter says I'm not feeling happy, I'll say, it doesn't matter, it's all in your mind, make yourself think of something to make yourself happy. But it's also sometimes a little unfair to do that. It's like when you have a cold, when you have a cold, it's not like people are going to say, oh, doesn't matter, it's all in your nose or something like that. When you have a cold, you need medicine to make yourself better. So in the same way, sometimes when you are sad, you need something, you need to talk to someone. You can talk to a friend, you could talk to your family members. Sometimes you might want to speak to somebody outside the family, somebody who is not a friend, somebody who doesn't really know you, because sometimes you feel shy, or you feel uncomfortable talking to someone about something that is very personal, something that is about, something that's very close to your heart, to someone who you're scared that your friends may not understand what you're saying. So the whole thing of, being human, all of us are very unique. All of us are very different from each other. And yet we all do need to get along with each other. The whole point of human relationship, of friendship and all of that, is that we need to like each other. We want people to like us. We want to get along with people. So it's important to me, what does my friend think about me? So sometimes when you have some thought which is strange or odd, you might feel worried that, oh, am I wrong to think this way? What will my friends think of me? So these are things which we all go, oh, someone's saying, ma'am, your sound is not coming. How many of you can't hear me?
Himanjali, your audio is, we can hear you. I think it's
but not very well.
With their device on their voice, their audio must be on mute or something. So
because we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Because somebody wrote that somebody else says I can hear you perfectly. So maybe one or two of you can't hear very well.
Yeah, so they need to connect the audio on their devices.
Yeah, maybe it's okay. Yeah. So, okay. So if most of you can hear, someone says crystal clear. So, okay, I'll continue. So what I was saying is about how about we are different and how we all feel differently. And say when you're going to, of course, nowadays, no one's going to parties, I think, but say if you were going to go out and meet friends, you dress up, maybe you wear a certain kind of, you decide what you want to wear for a party. So, you want to look a certain way. So you look your best. And so that is something very obvious. Like, it's obviously everyone can see what you're wearing. So your physical appearance, it's very clear how you're looking. But when it comes to your mind, what's inside you, that's not always showing. It's not so obvious to people how you think, what you think. So it's what you say to people, from which people decide what you are like. And sometimes we don't want to say certain things because we are worried that people won't understand us and people won't understand the way we feel or our thoughts. And especially, I think, I'm assuming many of you are teenagers. So teens is supposed to be a time when you feel a lot of anxiety, when you do feel, teen angst is like a known phrase, because teenagers are more, they do worry more, they are more anxious, they can be more sad than as you grow older, it's not like I'm not sad. It's not like I never worry, but you learn how to cope with that. You get different coping mechanisms as you get older. So you know how to, what should I say, have more filters and how to behave in a certain way that people would approve of, so to say. So, and in this book, the reason why I'm talking about all these things is the book which I've written. I don't know if any of you have already seen it, The Lies We Tell. That's and I don't want to, which is why I'm not sure how many of you have read it and how many of you have not. So I don't want to give away anything. But basically, it's about three friends. There's Irfan, Uma, and Rishi. And Uma leaves Irfan. And that happens in the beginning. She is his girlfriend and she leaves him. After which he's really upset. And then there are things that are happening in his home also, in his household, which makes him even sadder. And this book is about, in some ways, about mental health. It's about the way this character is feeling, and because his mind is breaking down after he starts feeling intense, very alone, very lonely, and then it's about how that leads to. So there is a certain, it's not a mystery, but it's also, there are certain things happening in his mind which makes him really uncomfortable, sad. So he does certain things which he shouldn't do because he's not sure of how to cope with the world and he needs help, but he's not able to get help because no one else understands him. So this book is about that, and about thing, and the title of the book, as I showed you all, is The Lies We Tell. And when I'm saying the lies we tell, it's not, we can discuss what is truth and what is a lie. And all of us at some level do tell lies. I mean, lying is something that honestly we all do, because it can be something very simple, like say you're just not feeling good. But I say, are you okay? Are you feeling fine? And you say yes, even if you're not. And that's not really a lie. It's not a big lie. It's just that, it's easier. Like if you say, no, I'm not feeling okay, then I'll say, oh, what happened? Then you have to explain what happened. Maybe you don't want to talk about all of that. So you just say, yes, I'm fine. And so that's really not about lying as much as about, it's like a white lie. What is a white lie? A white lie is when you say a lie to make the other person feel good. Or you don't want the other person to feel bad, so you say a lie. It's like, maybe you don't like what I'm wearing. I'm wearing very strange earrings, in fact. So maybe you don't like them. But if I say, do you like my earrings? You would probably say yes, because it would be rude to say no. And why would you want to make me sad by saying that, oh, I don't like your earrings? So these are white lies, which are fine. I mean, you just do it to make the other person feel better. And so half lies are fine. But sometimes when you're lying, it can become a bigger lie, and that can lead to problems. And in this book, it's all about these. And sometimes what is right and what is wrong, it all gets very blurred, and you make mistakes without wanting to. So this book is really about that, about this person being in a place. Oshin loves long and strange earrings. Thank you, Oshin. So, yeah. So, when I'm talking about lying and saying and speaking the truth, these are difficult things to think about, especially when you're young. Because sometimes, I remember in school when we were in nursery, and one of our teachers was asking us about, do you have a pet at home? So people who had pets were saying, I said, like, I have a dog or I have a cat or whatever. And one girl said, yes, I have a horse. And so we all knew, I was growing up in Calcutta. It's a city, and she lived in a small apartment. And so it was obviously a lie. But when a child is very small, you can't just say, oh, you're lying. So everyone's like, oh, you have a horse. So the teacher said, what? And you all know she's not saying the truth, but you kind of play along. So the teacher was like, oh, so how do you you take it for walks? And she was like, yeah, I take it for walks on the street and all that. So when you're very small and you're lying, it's almost sweet. It's kind of a cute thing that small kids do. And when you're really small, when you're 4, 5 and you're lying, then your parents always know when you're lying, because it's very obvious to an adult when a child is lying. And sometimes it's fun, and it's funny to hear children say silly, funny things. So you even play along when they lie. But as you get older and say the age where you are, you have to become a little more aware of what you're saying. And you have to take responsibility for what you say and what you feel. So that's when all these areas of what is true and what is false, they become a little, what should I say? They get a bit muddy, or they get mixed up. And my brother used to say this to me, and it's always got stuck in my head. Is he used to say, there's one person you must never lie to, and that person is yourself. So even if you want to get out of a bad situation and you've said a lie, say if I've lied to my mother about something, but I should still know that it was wrong and I've said a lie. It doesn't matter, maybe I've said it to protect myself. Because what happens when we start lying to ourselves is that your mind starts breaking. You you keep trying to justify things, and that is not a good place to be. Because again, I remember this, since I'm just remembering my childhood now. I remember that my grandparents were not letting me watch TV, or they were not stopping me, but they were watching something. And I was really keen. I was wanting to watch something else. And they were sitting, and I don't know how it is with you, but we used to be really very polite with our grandparents. I couldn't go and tell them that, oh, it's my turn now, go away, I want to watch TV. Somehow we didn't do that. We were really very, I don't think my children treat me with so much respect, but we did. We used to be we wouldn't really tell our grandparents to move and go away, I want to do this. So, and we didn't have so many, like somebody saying, I also watch TV on phone, but we didn't really have those things. We just had one TV from which everyone was watching. You didn't have laptops or so. So when my grandparents were watching TV, I was getting really angry. And I told my brother that they're really bad people. They're not letting me watch TV because they don't like me, they hate me. And he told me, just stop. You have to stop here. It's not that they hate you. They are watching something because they want to watch that. So yeah, okay, if it makes you feel happy, the thing is, you also want to watch something, they also want to watch something, and they are the ones who are getting to watch because they are older. That's all it is. No one hates you. No one is. So I thought to myself that, okay, so I have to know this. This is the truth. This is the truth, that no one hates me, and this is how I don't have to always give a very dramatic reason for what I want to do. So yeah, I wanted to watch TV and I wasn't allowed to. It's very annoying for me, but it's not anyone's fault. So sometimes it's just that. So it's good to know yourself, because you shouldn't get carried away with, always feeling like, oh, people are being mean to me, or people are being horrible to me. It's very often not that. Very often we just can't get our ways for whatever reason. Yeah, Avleen is saying, I like the Night Angle book very much. I also have this book in my house. It's a chapter book. Okay, I don't know this book. Okay. Okay, some people are about Hotstar, and yeah, that's true. You'll get to watch a lot of things which we didn't when we were growing up. There are a lot of, and somebody said I watch movies on my fridge. Billa said that. How's that? I've never watched a movie on a fridge. I didn't even know that's possible. That's kind of crazy. Okay, Billa, you're very lucky. So anyway, so this is these. So okay, so we are talking about books, and can you also, I don't know, any of you, all of you you all are different ages, but can you think of, you're not Billa, I'm so sorry. Okay, so yeah, and somebody is saying this is a lie, you cannot watch TV. Someone saying, okay, Oshin is saying maybe there was a TV attached to the fridge. So yeah. Yeah, Diarrhea, I can see you, but I don't know how to pronounce your name. He's the one who said it's a lie. Can't be watching. Okay. Okay, I think Billa, who is not really Billa, is lying to us. because he's telling me that he has a super fridge where there's a freezer inside his fridge where he can watch. He has a good imagination, but I don't think that can be true. Yeah. So he is blurring the lines between lying and saying the truth, but it could, but yeah, okay, let's go with it. Maybe it's a new invention, as Diarrhea says, which we don't know about. Though some people are saying it's a very big lie. So anyway, so no, I can't keep reading, then it's kind of funny. But also, can you think of other books where you've seen or any TV shows? I think TV shows would be a better place to go for, where you've seen mental, like people who are mentally not well. Have you seen representation of, like, I don't know if you all are too young. That's what I'm trying to think of, movies which I've seen recently, like All the Bright Places. I don't think you all would have seen. Okay, so mental, like I'm trying to think of literature and cinema where we see representation of mental health, and where there's a character who is, All the Bright Places, Mannat has seen. Yeah. So did you like the movie? I've read the book and watched the movie, and it's about this boy who in the beginning, you know, he seems really happy, go lucky boy, happy, like a happy person. He helps other people a lot. He helps other people feel better. And then as the book goes along, you realize that when it comes to himself, he is not really happy. And how he's inside himself, he talks about how there's a dark place inside himself. Yeah, somebody else is also saying All the Bright Places, Bright Place, that is such a good book. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and he often disappears, as you're saying. He goes away when he's feeling very sad. He just goes away to another place, and then he doesn't talk to anyone, and he comes back when he's happy again. So yeah, he has these moods. Okay, so many of you have read the book or seen the movie. That's great. Yeah, so it's one of my favorite books actually also, and I liked the movie too. So yeah, so I mean, literature which has characters like that, which is kind of for me a very interesting thing when I read, because I feel like it shows a mind that is different, and it's about how when you are in a certain mood, you have to learn to. But the thing is, you know, again, you have to learn to help yourself. You can't. I also feel nowadays, especially, of course, now you have counseling, you can get help from outside. When we were growing up, again, that was not really there. So how you felt, you had to keep it inside you, and you had to help yourself to get over things. So Arshi is saying motivational songs, motivator. Yeah, listen. So you have to think of what is your happy place. How do you make yourself feel better? So if it could be she's talking about how music helps you to connect to the emotions of the singer. And yeah, so music is a great place where you also know how to make yourself feel better. Talk about bipolar disorder, which is Mannat is talking about that, about how you feel. Sometimes bipolar means sometimes you're very happy and sometimes you're very low. So Oshin says what calms her is art. So these are all, there's so many thoughts and so many things that one can talk about when we are talking about mental health and about how to feel better. And the other thing, of course, which I think again is something that's in your time, which we never had, is the whole thing of social media. Inayat says reading calms me. Oh, and this is a nice thing. Guntas is saying Matilda by Roald Dahl is a great example of finding your calm in chaos. Yes, so sometimes in the middle of chaos and all, you know how to find your calm. And and diarrhea, water calms you. Water calms me too. I love water. So Oshin recently made a brinjal watercolor painting, and that made her feel better. So these are all great examples. So all of you are obviously have ways of coping, so to say, when you don't feel good or when you're not feeling happy inside. And the other thing I should bring up, which is like I was just saying, what we didn't have is social media. Social media, I think when it first came in, and I don't know when did it first start, and it started with first Facebook and all. And the whole point of having social media was to have a place it was supposed to be a safe place. yeah, writing. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by what you all are writing also. I don't know if this is a good idea. Writing gives closure is what someone's written for me too. Writing really helps me to sort out my feeling. In fact, I would say if those of you who like to write, you should really keep a journal, like a diary. So end of the day, like, because especially when I was younger, I used to always have a diary in which I used to just write down my thoughts, just anything. If I went out that day, I would just say, oh, I went to the park and I did this or I did that. And it's a way of organizing how you feel and the way you think. And when you put it down, it's something that helps you to also use language better. It's a way of interacting with language. Oh, someone's asking me what is my...
Himanjali, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what we can do is you continue with this thing, and after the session for 15-20 minutes, before wrapping up, we can open the session for the question and answers. So that time they can ask whatever they want to.
That's true, because I'm getting really... okay,
yeah,
so yeah.
Please don't,
please
don't
I'm getting very, I mean, there is a lot of interesting things being written, so I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, we'll open it for question answers at the end. For 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Actually, I'll speak for 5 more minutes and then we could have question answers. Yeah.
We'll do that.
Okay, it's really funny things. I will not read anymore. So, so basically, I just want, the last thing I want to talk about is social media, because that's something that I know is something that's causing a lot. And in this book also, there is a lot of, there's this photograph that is there, which leaks, which somebody sends it to her friends, and then there's a photograph of Uma which her friends send out, and no one knows who sent it out, and it causes a lot of trauma to her. There's a lot of the thing is intention. When I think social media was invented, the idea was to give everyone a safe space, a place to express yourself, to show your creativity, to write, to do things. But what's also happened is that it's not always such a safe space, because people are also misusing it. People use social, so you do, especially when you're young, even when you're older, you have to be careful about what you're putting out there, because what you put out there can be used against you sometimes, and it's kind of unfair. I've seen a lot of really horrible things happening on social media, but yes, it's also got its positive sides where you are, it's helping you express yourself, where you put out things which you write, which you draw, where you get a lot of people, you interact with people who you might not even know very well, but you learn to appreciate different kinds of people. So the good and the bad thing about social media, it is in some ways not really connected to reality. It helps, you can use it to create a certain image of yourself, of a, what you call a persona. Like, it's almost like being an actress or being an actor, where you sort of project yourself in a certain way. You can say funny things, you can say things in a different way from how you would speak in real life. And that can be fun, and that can be good, and that could also be teaching you a lot about how to interact with the world. But sometimes that can be a problem also, because there's this screen. There's basically a screen which is sort of like a barrier between you and the real world. And so you shouldn't get too carried away. You shouldn't make social media your whole life. There has to be more. Or you use it for, maybe you have really close friends with whom you chat on social media. That's a different thing. But to make it, I mean, this is again my thoughts. You can have a different thought on it, because I'm very confused about what to think about social media, because I feel like it is also a very problematic area. And when we were talking about lying and saying the truth, and so the whole thing of, so you are projecting a certain behavior, you are behaving in a certain way. Sometimes you're really being mean to people, because no one really knows each other in certain spaces sometimes. And that can be a bit of a harmful thing, because you can be saying, there can be cyber crime and all of that. Okay, so I can see again a lot of things coming on about social media. And I think, I've spoken enough, and you all can we can start discussing these things. How are we going to do this, Nazi? You're muted.
Yeah, Himanjali, so what we'll do is they will raise their hands, and one by one we will unmute them and they can talk to you.
Okay.
Okay. So, Oshin, Gurleen, let's unmute Oshin first.
Yes, 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, I've sent the request. They just need to.
Yeah. Oshin, unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am, I'm unmuted.
Yeah. Now you can ask whatever you want to ask.
Or say whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
We can't hear you. Are you?
Oshin, you are not audible.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask that I have many questions. So my first one is like, which is your favorite hobby except reading and writing?
You know, I like swimming. Of course, I've not done any swimming this year because no
Because
swimming
of the
pools are
pandemic.
open. But yeah, otherwise that's my other favorite thing to do.
Which is your favorite book?
Favorite lifetime, it's a bit difficult to say. But yeah, there is this author called Margaret Atwood who I like very much. So she's written a lot of books which I really like. And for children's books, I'm thinking I did like Roald Dahl a lot. I still like Roald Dahl a lot. I used to, when I was very young, I used to like Enid Blyton, which I find that children now don't read as much. My daughters didn't like it as much as I did when I was growing up. So yeah, there's so many things, so many books to like.
Who were you inspired by for writing? Like for writing books?
Yeah, so you know, I grew up reading mostly all outside authors from outside India, but then later I started reading also Indian authors like Vikram Seth, who's my really favorite Indian author.
Bond.
He's
Ruskin Bond.
Ruskin Bond. There are some really good stories by Ruskin Bond, which I loved as when I was younger. I've also I like funny stories, and there's Anushka Ravi Shankar who wrote this book called Moin and the Monster. I really like that book. And there are many books which I've really liked and which have also influenced me when I was writing as a result.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll unmute you, Oshin. Who's the next? Arshi raised hand. Gurleen?
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, where is I'm looking for? Okay, I can hear you. I can't see you.
Ma'am, due to some network issues, my
Okay.
video is off.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I want to know that what are your views on biographies and autobiographies?
Oh, okay. I've recently, in fact, been reading a lot of autobiographies, which is also, called memoirs also. When especially like as an adult, when you read autobiographies nowadays, nowadays you tend to call it memoir. And I really like that as a genre. And earlier, I used to only read autobiographies or biographies of very famous people. So that can be inspiring, and because you learn about their lives and the wonderful things they did. But the memoirs which I've been reading recently, they've been by people who are not so famous, and they've written written books when they were, for a writer, quite young, say a person who's in his early 30s. I've recently read this book by Tara Westover. She's just 30 years old or something, and she's had this amazing, very strange life. And at this age, so she's gone through a lot of things as a child, because her family, they were Mormons, which is they follow a certain religion where they didn't interact with the outside world, and they grew up without being educated. Like, she didn't go to school, and that's a certain, where it's a person just writing about her life, but it's such an interesting life that even at the age of 30, she's writing her autobiography, which is, in fact, this book has become a bestseller and everyone's been reading it. So yeah, so I think I do like the genre. I think it's it's a genre. That has a lot of potential. All of you, which is why I was saying keep your own journals and diaries, because it's a great idea too. So that can become, especially as you get older, you can always look back on which you might forget. You'll have your diary to refer to, and that can lead to you writing a book, or you don't have to write a book, but it's almost like you have that material to write your autobiography.
So we have Suryansh Sharma. Suryansh has raised his hand.
1 second.
And we have a question by Guntas also. After Suryansh, we take Guntas.
Okay, Suryansh can unmute himself.
Suryansh, can you unmute yourself?
Ma'am, no question.
No question, you raised your hand. Okay, so we take up Guntas. Guntas had a question.
1 second. Okay, I see Guntas.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Or is it good evening, ma'am?
Yeah, whichever. Yeah, in between, twilight. Yeah.
Well, my question was, as you were talking about journals, how do you maintain journal? How do you not forget to write a day, or sometimes you're exhausted? How do you just maintain it?
Yeah, well, you don't have to be so hard on yourself, as in you don't have to write it every day. Even if you're writing it 4 days in a week, it's fine. Or maybe if you don't want to lose the habit, on a day when you're tired, you could just write 4 lines, 5 lines. You don't. So it shouldn't also become something that you don't enjoy doing. The idea is to also enjoy the writing. So if you don't feel like writing on a certain day, you should not force yourself. But as far as possible, you should. And maybe on a certain day that you have more thoughts, or you have gone through something that has upset you or made you extra happy, on that day maybe you write a little more, because you need to sort out your feelings more. You want to spend more time thinking about what happened. So yeah, there's no hard and fast rule. You don't have to write pages every day, but and some days you can have just done nothing. But even on a regular day, there's always something, right? Even if you're watching something on TV, or if you watch something on Hotstar or wherever, and you will have your thoughts about what you've watched. That itself is something you could record. That you like something, why did you like it? Why didn't you like it? All of that. So yeah.
All right, that sounds about right. And was writing an escape for you, or did you just start it as a hobby?
It. I've also kept a journal, and I've always written from the time I was young. But sometimes, especially now as I get older, I really feel it is a bit of an escape. It sort of takes me away from daily life of, every day, all the boring things that one has to do in terms of, just like for you, it would be things like homework and school. For me, it's looking after the household, some cooking, some all of that. So it's a break, and so it is a sort of escape. And especially when I'm using my imagination, so to say, to create a world where I don't actually belong. So it's fun to do. It's fun, and it's kind of a very different. I'm in a different space from where I am every day.
Also, last question. So do you tell your daughters to write too, or like you want them to do anything?
No, yeah,
You
of course.
encourage-
Yeah. I'm fine with them doing anything. My older daughter does enjoy writing more. My younger one doesn't. So the older one also always read more books. Younger one is not as interested in reading. And so, I mean, in the beginning, it used to, like, I used to always feel like everyone has to read. But now I feel also you do have to do what you like to do. You can't, just because I am obsessively fond of books doesn't mean everyone has to.
All right, thank you so much.
So Anureet Kaur Bal has raised her hand.
Yeah, unmuting.
Yeah.
Good evening,
Anureet,
ma'am.
you can ask your question.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, I just want to ask you that can you please suggest some ways that if you want to write, if you have a passion of writing, you can't concentrate, what to do in that one situation?
If you have a passion of writing, I don't, where are you? I didn't hear the second part. Anuji?
But you can't concentrate. I'm just saying,
Your voice is breaking.
want to write. If you want to write, but you can't concentrate on your writing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know whether is that something that happens to you all the time or sometimes that you can't concentrate on your writing. Sometimes, right? Yeah, sometimes. So the thing is, it does happen to everyone sometimes. There are certain days I don't feel like writing. And I think, again, that's okay. You don't have to force yourself. The whole thing of, there is a certain pleasure that we get from writing. And it's important to to enjoy what you're writing, to enjoy that activity. So while it is something, so even if you want to take a break for a few days, take a break and just make sure you come back to it. But I would say don't treat it like a job that has to be done, because then you will not be able to do it with as well as you would like to.
Yes.
So yeah, nothing should really become, I mean, schoolwork and all, of course, you have to do. But this writing which you do for pleasure, it's not something you should force yourself to do at any point. It should be when you want to.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we have Gurleen, Samsung Galaxy S50.
And then there was also this.
Karan also asked a question.
Yeah.
So we have to take them both.
Oh, I can see Karan's question, how to get over writer's block.
Yeah.
Is that yeah, I'll answer that, and if he has anything else, he can add to that. So, well, again, getting over writer's block is, I also feel you have to be in a certain mind space to be able to write. So there are certain days when you're feeling, some people write better under pressure, some people write better when they are calm. So it again varies from person to person. And like we were talking about maintaining a journal, that's a good way of getting over the writer's block, because then you're sort of, you're writing when,
so he says, I write better when I'm angry.
So, well, I won't say that you should be angry all the time, and because that you should not be. But I understand what you're saying. I also write better when I'm feeling not angry, but when I'm anxious, when I'm worried, because then, you get a lot of thoughts. I mean, a lot of things come into your head at those times. So yeah, when don't try to be angry all the time, but write when you're not angry also. So if you write better when you're angry, maybe you put down all your thoughts when you're angry, but when you're feeling better, go back to it. And then sometimes also when you're angry, what we are writing, it might not make so much sense because you're so excited or whatever. So go back to it when you're less angry and try to sort out those feelings, to think about what you wrote and think about why you were angry. So that itself can be a good exercise of trying to understand yourself better. So, and also try to write when you're happy. Sometimes do that also, so that it becomes something you do. I mean, you learn to do at all times. Again, no pressure, but it's a good, you should try to, when you're feeling extremely happy, maybe you just say, okay, I'll just go and write down a few things about what I'm thinking.
So we have, Gurleen, we have again Samsung Galaxy S50.
Okay.
And yeah, I can see the one question from that. Is it, I want to ask, what really made you write this book? Yeah, so
Okay.
Yeah, this book, there was because my daughter was a teenager, she still is, but so what she was going through, not what she was going through, she had a very close group of friends at that time when I was writing this. And they were quite young, but they used to have a habit of talking to me a lot. So I used to know about their lives a lot. And there was a lot of things that were really fascinating for me, because when I was growing up, I hadn't seen these things happen. So I used to sort of think about all that, and that's when it started. Then, of course, all the characters are imaginary, but from that, I think just listening to them talk and seeing how young people feel and how they get so anxious about small things, and that's just how I started writing this book, because I heard about, I mean, they would talk about, somebody who a boy who likes a girl and what is happening between them. And it was funny for me to listen to as an adult. Not funny, but it was kind of interesting. So it just started. I mean, I just started writing from that. And
we
then
have,
she has one more question: is do you have any inspiration? If yes, then
Yeah.
who? Well, there are a lot of authors who inspire me to write in a certain way. I've also, I also have written about a super dog, which was inspired by my dog. I have a dog called Russo, and so that's my book for younger children.
Anji.
Yes, so my super dog books was inspired by my own dog, because he's a kind of, he's now 11, but when I wrote those books, he was a puppy, and he is still quite a crazy dog. So yeah, he was kind of inspiring me to write.
We have another question from Lakshmeet. She says, how ideas come into your mind? I also want to know.
Ideas can come into your mind from anything. So if you just look around you, you'll have, I'm just looking at the clock that is on my wall, and it's a wooden clock. And if you just start describing something, if you look at it very closely, sometimes strange ideas can come. So looking at this, I'm thinking about time, and how you tell time. And from that, I mean, I'm not saying you have to force this, but ideas don't have to necessarily come, like it can just come from looking around you. Sometimes you just look at a cloud and you see shapes. That's, I think, something we all do. I mean, when you're younger, especially, or you look at like the floor has funny patterns, so you make a design out of it. So those are all ideas which you're coming. It's like, even you have memories, you have, say, you do something in school, and from all of that, the idea could just be something very simple. It could just be what you ate for lunch, or what you are watching on TV. But from anything, another new idea can come, and you should just hold on to an idea that comes, and if you start writing about it or developing it, it can take you to many places.
So we have two more questions. One is from Inayat. She says, ma'am, if you were not a writer, what would you be?
I'm not only a writer, I am also an editor, which is, I work in a publishing house which publishes books. So it's very related. I don't write. So when it comes to editing, I'm reading other people's books, and we are making books. So a publishing house, makes books. So that's what I do for a living, really. As in, I write, my books I've written in my free time. And I do have a day job, which is publishing.
So another question we have is, what type of books you prefer to children which really motivate them towards their goal? This is by Harleen Kaur.
Well, it depends on what your goal is. So of course, if you're talking about, say you're interested in sports and you want to be an athlete, then you read a certain kind of books. You read more sports books, and you read about motivation, like there'll be I can't remember the name, but I was reading a book about this person who was a runner as an athlete, and who overcame a lot of odds to become a sports person. So you can look for books, especially now with Google, you can just find everything. So you find books which you feel would speak to you, and you just pick that up.
We have Mannat's question. Mannat says, if you get to give one suggestion, what will you suggest to this millennial generation?
I'm really bad at giving advice. So I don't think I want to give any. I would just say, be happy, be kind I think kindness is something that's really important. Be kind to people. Don't be mean to anyone.
So Elisa is asking, we now quickly we'll take 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll wrap up. Elisa is asking, do you like the books which are written in the form of diaries?
Yeah, there's so many different kinds of diaries, right? There was Anne Frank's diary, which is of course set in it's a very serious and very sad book in some ways, and also very inspiring. And then there are these, you have the Wimpy Kid diaries, and so it's just a way of writing. It's a format. So I have read many diaries which I've loved, actually. So it's more about how you write rather than the format, I would say, for me.
So Jaineet has a question, ma'am, how many books have you written?
I think 6, yeah, 6 books.
You can order her books from Amazon. If you
Yeah.
search Himanjali Sankar books, so you can order those books on Amazon. They are all available there. So Karan has this question, what's your advice on someone who wants to start reading?
Who wants to start reading? Well, I don't know, you should, maybe you should get into the habit of reading small things first, because if you're not in the habit, and so you read short stories, force yourself to read like, even if you don't enjoy it, force yourself to read a few pages every day, and keep picking up different types of things, because sometimes you might not enjoy reading a certain book which you're forced to read, but you read something else and you like it. So because I've seen that everyone has their own taste, so you have to discover what is your taste and what sort of books you like, and then read more books of that type. So because everyone doesn't have the same tastes.
So there's another question from Arshi. Does nature play an important role on writing something? As in my case, I can't write anything unless I'm not sitting in my garden under a tree.
Okay, that's very nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, actually, nature does. I think that's something that all of us, even if it's not inspiring me to write, it is something that fills everyone with a certain sense of calm. It gives us peace. And those things are also important, not just for writing, but generally. So, yeah, I think especially in these times when all of us are so disturbed, you look at the sky, you look at trees, you look at, of course, I'm not getting to see any water, but I would love to see the ocean. All these things are, yeah, they also make our minds work in different ways. They make our minds open up. So yes, I think nature is, even if you don't write about nature, it is something that helps you to write.
So Inayat has another question. She says, ma'am, if you get to write someone's biography, whose biography will you write?
That's, no, I don't know. I mean, I would really have to think. That's a good question. I'll think about that, but I don't want to say anything right away because I can't immediately. It would probably be a writer, but I don't know which writer. I've seen so many interesting movies which are like based on biographies. So many interesting biographies I've read, but I would have to know about a person's life to decide. Sorry, I can't answer that.
So now we take up the last question. This is Avleen Kaush, and she's asking, ma'am, what type of book children should read to improve their vocabulary?
If you're, well, vocabulary is something that as you read, more you read, your vocabulary will improve. So it's about it's not about what kind of book, but when you're reading a book, if you come across a word you don't know the meaning of, make sure you look up the meaning, or usually very often we are guessing the meaning sometimes. Sometimes you don't want to stop, but you're guessing the meaning. But the fact is, just reading itself improves your vocabulary. That's what I've discovered over the years. So the more you read, your vocabulary will improve. So, yeah.
So thank you so much, Himanjali, for coming to the book room. It was a pleasure having you over.
Thank you.
I hope all the kids loved talking to you. And we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Next session is on 8th of August. It is with Paro Anand. So if you guys want to enroll, you can just message on 9779020050, or you can log in on our Facebook or Instagram page. Thank you so much, everyone.